This is the Ulster Tower, the oldest memorial on the Somme, first one to be built after the war, commemorating the Ulster regiments that fought here.
Guys, if you just want to use your toilet or anything, feel free. And then we're going to start the tour just at the front of the tower.
Alright,
Okay.
great, thank you.
And I'm going to be your tour guide for the tour of the tower here, the surrounding grounds and the trenches with relation to the Battle of the 36th Ulster Division on the 1st of July. A couple of wee health and safety points. When we're going down the road, could you please stay well into the left? The French are mad going up and down this road, even in tractors. And when we're in Theipval Wood, if you could please stick to the designated path. There is still stuff in there and we don't want to have any unfortunate accidents. If anybody has any questions about anything that we cover today, please feel free to ask. And if I can't answer it for you, I will have the answer by the time we come back. I have a direct line back to Ulster and an expert just sitting waiting on me to call her. As I say, any questions at all, guys? The tour takes about an hour 20, an hour 25 minutes. We'll try and get it done as quick as we can for you. The weather's not great. We'll start the tour here. I'll give you the history of the tower and the surrounding. Then we'll take a walk over to the fence line and we'll have a look first of all at what the Germans were up to, and then we'll talk about friendly forces and we'll get into the battle, and then we'll make our way down the road and end up in Theipval Wood. Okay?
You okay to be fun?
Absolutely. Okay, the Ulster Memorial Tower is a memorial to the 36th Ulster Division, the soldiers who fought here, and very many of them died here on the 1st of July 1916. This memorial was the first to be built on the Western Front, so one thing our government got right, at the end of the war they got together, set a project in place to build this tower on the battle site, and it was officially opened on the 19th of November 1921. And it was dedicated on the opening by Field Marshal Sir Henry Wilson, and he was the Chief of the Imperial General Staff of the British Army at the time, and he came from Longford, County Longford, in the south of Ireland. Very sadly, Field Marshal Wilson, the following June, was murdered in London by the IRA as he came out of Liverpool Street Station after doing a small dedication to a plaque, and he was making his way home to his apartment in London. Now, I say to people at that time, the Troubles were particularly bad in our country around the 20s because of the Home Rule Bill after the war had finished. So that he was a sort of a result of that. Now, Lord Carson was supposed to be obviously the guy to open it, but he was indisposed. We think he had the flu. So when you take a wee walk into the memorial room, if you get a walk in, you'll notice it was dedicated by Lord Carson. Actually, that stone was made before it, so it was actually Field Marshal Wilson that came and opened the tower. The tower is a replica of a famous landmark back home in Northern Ireland called Helen's Tower. Helen's Tower sits in the Clandy-Boyanover estate between a wee seaside town of Bangor, where this gentleman lives, and a town called Newtownards. And the reason we replicated Helen's Tower to here was because a big lot of our soldiers from the 36th Ulster Division, particularly the Belfast and County Town battalions, trained in the Clandy-Boy estate prior to going to war. So it is said that the last thing the Ulster soldiers seen as he left was Helen's Tower. Very sadly, quite a lot of them young men never ever seen it again. And this is an exact replica, except we're probably a wee bit bigger here. I think our tower's a wee bit bigger. Helen's Tower was built in the late 1890s by the Viscount of Clandy-Boy, who sort of loved his mother, and he named it after his mother Helen. And she was a poet, And she spent quite a lot of time in the tower doing her poetry, and we believe, I think she was related to some famous poet, but she was quite good at the poetry herself. And she spent many months in there on her own. And we think, it is said that she was a lady who was ill at that time, and we think it might have equated till today as she might have had dementia or something like that. She spent quite a lot of time on her own in the tower. The tower still sits in Clondyboy Estate, and you can actually book it and hire it and go and stay in it, if that's your thing. It's in the middle of nowhere. We had a couple here on a tour last year who went, and they took their son and daughter-in-law with them, put them in a hotel, and they went and stayed in the tower for 2 nights, but they only lasted a night. It was that cold, they swept over, and they threw the kids into it the second day. However, it is some trust, and they have started refurbishing it. My son goes up there quite regular on the bike. It's good for mountain biking, and he sent me a picture the other day, and it looks like they're doing the windows in it and probably putting double glazing in it. But if that's your thing, you can't book it and go and stay in it. Personally, it's in the middle of nowhere. I don't know why you would want to. So that's Helen's Tower, guys. On the ground floor, we have a lovely memorial room. Please, if you get a minute, if you get nip in and just have a wee look around, and maybe a couple of you would sign a book to say you visited us. Anywhere up above is out of bounds, because that's where I live. We haven't done the dishes today, and I've got my daughter and all staying, so they're probably still in bed. We have 2-story, 2 apartment up above there. You've got a small living room, kitchen and toilet where the double windows are. Then you go up the spiral steps to the single window, and there's 2 wee bedrooms. It's basic, it's small, but it's comfortable. You can get to the very top of the tower, however, the very last rung of ladders is aluminium steps. For health and safety reasons, we can't let anybody up there, but the view from up there is absolutely stunning. Many years ago, you could actually visit and go to the top of the tower. I think it stopped at about the 90s, because some American lady tripped on the steps and put a claim in. But where we live now used to be a wee souvenir shop, so you could go in them days. Site, and the soldiers were told, when you get out of your trench, light your pipe and walk onto the German positions, they'll all be dead. How wrong were they? And the main reason for that was all these shells that were fired in these German positions didn't go off. Look at the ground. They were hard impact shells. They just buried into the ground here, the soft agriculture land. And 110 years later, in fact as recently as yesterday, shells turn up in these fields, grenades turn up in these fields, but shells in their hundreds. There's one just down on the left of the road there that my son-in-law found yesterday as he was walking down the road. They just turn up every day, particularly when farmers go into these fields. I was handed a Mills bomb grenade in here by a Northern Ireland tour guide last year, and I wasn't too happy. I had his tour in the wood, and he had nothing to do, so he went out and found a grenade. I have it lying out the back there. They would throw them in the yard fence line, people and farmers, because we can phone the French and they'll come and take it away. But guys, please be very careful. You're walking these fields, you see any of these things. If you can look at it and it's complete, it hasn't went off. If it's a bit of metal, that's different, but please be very careful. There's not lots of accidents, but you just never know. My advice, don't touch anything you see, anything that resembles a weapon system. So the battle had started. The 29th Division come up that open ground in the distance to take Hamel. However, heavy machine guns from that high area rained down on that division, and that attack came to a halt almost straight away. Didn't succeed at all. At the same time, area to walk forward to take Butecourt Station, and they also encountered heavy machine guns from Butecourt down the valley, and them 2 battalions were literally decimated. They attempted 6 times to get to their objective, and a small amount of them did. However, they were unable to sustain it. Out of one of the battalions, it was 1,000 men went out, and only 300 at the count at the end of it. And that was that day on the left line. And that leads me into the first 2 Victoria Crosses. The first one I'm going to talk about is Rifleman Robert Quigg, VC, 12th Battalion of Royal Irish Rifles. Born and bred in a wee village in County Antrim called Bushmills. Has anybody heard of Bushmills?
I heard of it.
Yes. So Robert Quigg was born in Bushmills, born and bred. Now his platoon commander also came from Bushmills. He was a Lieutenant Harry McNaughton. And Robert Quigg actually and Robert Quigg's family worked on Harry McNaughton's family's estate, so they knew them quite well. Now when they come back in that day, word got to Quigg that Harry McNaughton was missing on the battlefield. Robert Quick felt a bit responsible towards him, so he thought, I'm going out to get him. So he went out no less, under fire, into the battlefield 7 times that day. And every time he came back, he brought a casualty back with him. And on the 7th occasion, he dragged a casualty from the German front line machine gun post the whole way along the valley on a ground sheet and brought him into safety. He was exhausted and he couldn't go back out that evening. And very sadly, young Harry McNaughton was never ever found, and he's probably still lying out there somewhere. And his name is on the memorial to the missing at Theipval. So that's Robert Quick's story. See here, to take Theipval village, there was about 7 cuts in the barbed wire, and every time the soldiers went to the cuts to get through them, they were mown down by machine guns in the church area and all the front buildings of the village. So that attack also came to an abrupt halt straight away, no success. While that was happening, the Ulster Division had come out of Theipval Wood. They had taken the German front line, where the cemetery is. They'd taken the German second line, and they had got to the Schwaben Redoubt, where there was heavy hand-to-hand fighting between Ulster soldiers and Germans. In fact, 3 or 4 days later, when the 49th Division come through, who were continuing the battle, they found dead Ulster soldiers lying in the Schwaben Redoubt with dead Germans. But not only did they take the Schwaben Redoubt, they took the German 4th line, and pockets of them got right to the back to the German 5th line. So in effect, they achieved their aim that day. However, because these 2 attacks left and right had halted, the machine guns were able to switch fire. You want to move up to the left a wee bit, guys? So the machine gun on the left and right had switched fire and fired in onto the division. So they ended up with what we call a salient. They couldn't sustain that.
We're in retreat. We're retreating, aren't we?
Yes.
The Germans are here.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right.
So they couldn't sustain that, making that distance, with fire being left and right of them. They couldn't get reinforcements up. They couldn't get ammunition up. There was an artillery barrage that started this battle, and because our division had got so far so quick, they ended up being fired upon by the artillery, so they had to take a bit of cover from that. However, later on, somebody from the 32nd Division had sent a signal back to say they were in Theipval village. Now, small pockets of them get into Theipval village, but they didn't take it by any means. So the artillery then stopped. So once the Ulster Division got forward, they asked for the artillery to be put back on again to enable them to sustain and carry on, and it was refused, quite rightly, because if they had kept on firing, and there was soldiers in there that had killed them, so the artillery was stopped after the Ulster Division requested it be put back on. So guys, the questions are that always get asked: how did the Ulster Division get so far so quick when these 2 attacks came to an abrupt halt? There can be a number of reasons, but one reason I only know for definite that gave them a small advantage was at 7:30 on the 1st of July, the Ulster Division were not in that wood. The Ulster Division are standing where we're standing now. If you remember, I said the banks either side of the road. So they had come out of the wood in the dead of night, and I'll show you how they got out when we go in there. And they had lined up all along here. So at 7:30, they went up over the bank and started the attack. That still doesn't, that's only about a 40-metre advantage. There's a number of reasons I think they got there so quick, apart from pure heroism, is everybody was ordered to walk on the objective. And that was common back in them days. I think General Nugent, who was a commander of the 36th Division, I think he's a very, very shrewd tactician, and I think he's told his soldiers, you get there as quick as you can, so I think they ran, definitely do. Another thing they may have done, which I don't know, and it's very common in the British Army even today, was drop their heavy packs. Every man was carrying 3 days equipment for this battle all along the front. So 3 days ammo, water, ration supplies. He may have told them to drop their kit either in there or here. That would have enabled them to be lighter. They would have had just a belt order to fight, and they would have fought forward. I don't know, but that could be another reason why they got there. So guys, that's sort of the battle picture, and I think it's important that you can look and try and imagine, if you look in front of you and try and imagine shell holes, machine guns firing left and right, artillery all overhead, and you're trying to get through cuts and wire to get up onto them positions. Just think of what them poor kids had to get through. You know, if you can think that for 10 seconds, you know, and also give a wee thought to the wee German soldiers up there, because they were only kids. They were just like our wee soldiers. They didn't want to be here any more than our guys did. But I think it's important you can see the ground, you know, and you can imagine what actually went on. Is there any questions, guys? Paid for and brought out here by one of our volunteers, a fella called Theipval Woods. He comes out here twice a year with us digging and working in the woods. Now, he done this bit down many years ago, and we put it in, which is really beautiful. But this bit at the top bit, he only done recently. He was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, and while he was sort of convalescing, he designed this. So he's okay now, thankfully. But last September, he brought this out here. Now, he paid for this to get all that done. He designed it, and he paid for it out of his own pocket. Bridge man, that's real dedication for you. But the top bit, there's significance to what you see on it, and I'm going to explain that to you now. So the two soldiers you see, they represent soldiers on sentry in Theipval Wood. The crosses you see along the top, there's 16 of them crosses, and they're in remembrance of the 16th Irish Division, who fought about 13 miles that way in a place called Gaelmont and Gainshay. Now, what you need to bear in mind, guys, is prior to this battle, this war, these two divisions would have been killing each other in civil war back home in Ireland, because this was the Irish nationalists had formed the 16th Irish Division, and they were about to go to war with each other. But it's very fitting. We didn't fight along with the 16th Division on this line, but we fought with them twice in Belgium. Once at the Battle of Mazine's Ridge in August 17 or June 17, and we're one of the leaders of the 16th Irish Division, Major Willie Redmond, was shot and injured on the first day of that battle. He was carried off the battlefield by an Ulster soldier who was shot dead consequently, and another Ulster soldier carried him off the battlefield. Sadly, Willie Redmond died that day of his injuries. Now, I was at his grave last week, and I don't know why you've been there, and I was just sitting outside the cemetery. It's a very poignant grave to go to. And that's not where he was shot, but that's where he died. And his wife insisted that he be buried where he died. I think it's a beautiful story. But that's a sort of two divisions. So that's in remembrance of our comrades in the 16th Irish. You'll see 36 crosses or poppies that leave at 11 o'clock. So they represent the 36th Ulster Division who fought in here and was in this wood at that time. I think it's a beautiful piece of equipment for somebody just to do on his own and pay for. And he brought it out in a wee camper van. He drove the whole way from Northern Ireland in a wee camper van, and he put it up himself last September. That's dedication. And called Stirling Castle, Ross Castle, and the Ulster Division who came in here on the February 16 changed the name of one of theirs, 109 Brigades, till Belfast Castle. We only changed two names. Everything is Scottish. Paisley Avenue, they're all here. We only changed one to Enniskillen Avenue, and obviously Belfast Castle for the brigade headquarters.
Oh, no park
So,
here,
as I said, we soldier would have done 4 days here, guys, and then they would have back out to continue with training. And while we're in here, they fixed any trenches that were damaged. They would have went out on patrol in the no man's land at night to try and gain prisoners of war, to get information about the battle. They would have done mainly sentry, particularly gas sentry. Remember, 15,000 men in this wood, and gas was being used, so they needed to be on their toes.